Hello, and welcome to the next installment of individualized messages related to the Aries North Node, but geared towards each of the individual North Node groups. So in this video, you'll find timestamps down below for the Libra, Scorpio, and Sagittarius North Nodes. And as always, if you are not one of those North Node groups, but you still want to develop that energy. So for example, let's say you were a Libra rising and you really wanted to get more in alignment with your Libra energy, you could theoretically watch the Libra North Node chapter and realize that developing in any area is a matter of kind of healing the shadows that throw us out of balance on the other end, aka working with the South Node archetype of healing shadows, working with the patterns that are there that we've already well established that maybe we aren't super conscious of because they come so naturally to us. So anybody can watch any of the 12 chapters and possibly find some really cool messages there. This is where our intuition guiding us and letting us know like what's jumping out at you at any given time, like, you know, whenever that might be, whenever you're finding this. I am excited to share those messages, and without further ado, let's get into it. Hello, Libra North Nodes, and welcome to a contemplation that is intended to help build up Libra energy by putting a little bit of soothing medicine on our Aries shadow, working with that Aries South Node archetype. So in this video, it's really interesting to me whichever placement is having their cross nodal return, meaning like right now we have the transit North Node moving through Aries, which is the sign of your South Node, so they're opposite. And then on the other end, we have your Libra North Node being transited by the Libra South Node. So the cross nodal return means that the transit nodes are operating opposite to your nodal placement. So that is you guys for this transit that we are having. And this is also the 50% way mark of, like, if you're a Libra North Node, the last time you had a nodal return was back in 2014 and 2015. And this transit of the Aries North Node is halfway through until your next Libra nodal return for your North Node. So that will come up in, again, 9.5 years. So this is kind of that halfway checkpoint of how's it going? How's it progressing? And as we get into these areas to develop as a Libra North Node, I also want to set them down into this context of what does it mean when we're supposed to develop in the opposite way as a collective of where we personally are trying to develop. Like, what does that bring up? Because it can absolutely be a challenging time to have these nodes transit opposite to yours. So let's dive into the attributes to develop. The first one is cooperation, and really like teamwork. The ability to cooperate with others to get things done, the ability to partner with others to do something that you alone are not capable of. Next area to develop is in diplomacy and tact. Like, Aries on the other end is very impulsive and can be a little bit like burning people with that fire. That Aries South Node especially could like have moments where, yeah, like the heat rises and other people become uncomfortable because of it. The Aries South Node person is probably totally fine by it, but other people are uncomfortable. And so this diplomacy and tact says, read the room. Read the people around you and see like, how's it going for them and what's up with them? And, you know, paying attention to other people and then figuring out, how do I approach the unique individual standing in front of me so that we stay in a comfortable place for us both and we can team up to accomplish something that we were not able to accomplish before. And where I want to take this first, as far as like, how does this relate to the Aries North Node, is saying individualize, you know, go off by yourself, like do all the things that you all as Aries South Nodes, like that's not advisable. That's really not advisable. Like, you guys are meant to practice cooperation and diplomacy and working with other people, teaming up to do bigger things than you're capable of alone. But like, I think what I want to say is like, you can do both at the same time. You can absolutely do both at the same time. And I feel my brain twisting into a pretzel as I say that. So if you're feeling something similar, like, dude, we're right there together. But I'm going to try to like open this pretzel back up, okay? We'll see how it goes. But basically, part of it is that Aries North Node conjunct the Aries South Node is wanting to almost like pull you up and elevate you into the superpower of your Aries South Node. That like that South Node archetype, there's two sides to every coin in the physical. There's light and there's dark. There's the superpower side and there's the karmic side of like, you have a lot of experience. So you have some gifts in this area and you have some debts that probably need to be, reconciled. And so working through our South Node is a matter of recognizing what natural gifts we brought because we had that expertise and where have we taken it too far, thus needing to dial it back a little bit. So that Aries South Node has superpowers for you. It has an incredible capacity to be independent and to trust your own instincts and to feel inside of yourself what is in alignment with you and what is not in alignment with you. And the advice for how to build up cooperation, how to build up diplomacy and tact, the advice is very Libra South Node, is like, it's not a matter of finding people to cooperate with, it's a matter of finding the right people. And to find the right people, you actually need a lot of Aries energy. You need to know yourself. Right? The right people will be right because they fit with you. So this Aries North Node chapter can work for you the same as it works for everybody else, as far as like getting even more crystal clear on who you are and who you are not, thus informing who are the right people to pair up with and team up with and practice your cooperation, which will be a challenge to be on a team with anyone. Aries energy is kind of that solo warrior archetype, like your life depends on you and that's like all you got going on. And that's an intense place to be. So breaking that habit and learning to trust other people, learning to cooperate with other people and wait around for them to do things that like, oh, I could just do it faster. Of course you could do it faster. But when you have other people on your team, now the sum of the parts, right? Like what you're capable of as an individual is this big. What you're capable of as part of a team or an organization is infinitely bigger, depending on how many people's talents and skills and energy can you fit into the puzzle. And this development, this, Libra South Node transiting on your Libra North Node, it's like, I have a feeling that this is just one scenario that's coming through. That, remember, this is a general video, so if this doesn't sound like what you've got going on, don't worry about it, leave it here for somebody else. But one scenario is that you're practicing these things of cooperation and diplomacy and tactfulness with the wrong people. And it's like, no matter how much you try, it just doesn't work. It doesn't fit. It doesn't it's just not working. It's not a pleasant, healthy teamwork kind of environment. And I would imagine that same as everybody else, Aries South Nodes will have some level of social conditioning, aka like the Libra South Node that's transiting in the sky right now, unraveling our social conditioning. Likely you possess some ideas around how one should participate, how one should cooperate. What does it mean to be half of a pair? What does it mean to be in relationship with other people? Likely, every single person on the planet has some preconceived ideas of what that looks like. And the Libra South Node is unraveling that for all of us and for you guys as Libra North Nodes. To develop your Libra North Node energy under the light of the Libra South Node, it's like getting really clear and unique in who you choose to cooperate with and how that cooperation actually plays out, how the reciprocation actually plays out. There's no relationship manual that exists that can tell you the right way to be in relationship. It's not possible for there to be one standard, especially for Aries North nodes. You guys have like that. One of the gifts of that Aries energy being so exaggerated in your psyche is like, you know what fits you and what doesn't. So there will be some people who fit you and some people who don't, some people who you do find it pleasant and healthy and expansive even to be in relationship with them, life-giving even. And then there are other people who feel like they're suffocating you, who feel like, you know, in order for me to cooperate with them, in order for me to be diplomatic to them, I have to contort myself into such a shape that it physically pains me. Part of learning to cooperate and diplomacy and tact is to learn how to be respectful to every human being, yes, but entering into relationship is very, 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 very different than interacting with someone, right? Like interacting with someone, like the guy standing behind you in line at coffee or the driver over at the gas station. Like, I mean, the people that we come into contact with, that we have interactions with, where learning diplomacy and tact as far as like every human being is worthy of respect. I don't know about you, but I believe that to my core, as far as like everyone may look different, but everyone who's alive and those have passed, like every being is worthy of respect. And so having diplomacy and tact, meaning you respect every human being, that's one thing. Nobody says you have to get into relationship with them. Nobody says that you have to accept their behavior as like their being, as somebody that I have to cooperate with, right? Like getting to choose who you're going to cooperate with and who you're going to leave on the outside of your boundary, or whose self-selecting behavior is leaving themselves on the outside of your boundary. Like our personality, our authenticity, our individuality, that Aries spark of life that we all are, we get to be not a perfect match for everyone. Like no one's a perfect match for everyone. So I feel like one of these scenarios is that there are some people in your life right now who it's like you're watering a dead plant kind of thing, with like trying to practice cooperation with them. Like they're not a good match for you. So I don't know who needed to hear that, but that came through really strongly. And I think first and foremost, clearly this guy needed to hear it. This is one scenario of how this could play out. I think another scenario, and this one is really exciting, is like Libra North Node is pointing towards divine union. Like that's what you're here for, as far as like where will you find the richest practicing grounds to evolve your soul inside of a harmonious partnership. So notice, like it's not just a partnership, it's a harmonious partnership. And so cooperation, diplomacy, and tact, it's like that is the act of creating harmony with another person. And again, you can create harmony with every single person you interact with simply by respecting them. That's pretty straightforward. But in terms of relationship, like who you're going to spend time with, who you're going to carve out a container of, this is how we interact. This is the exchange that we are here to make. This is the context through which we are going to come together. And in coming together, we both fully understand that relationship is a transformation chamber. So you go in there to get changed. That's what you do. That's why we have relationship, is to grow. So that's the whole point. It's like you're not going to go into a relationship and stay the same. So who you choose to get into a relationship with, you're picking who's going to change me. That's like what the question is, as far as like choosing who to partner with, choosing who to team up with. It's like, do you want them to transform you into being more like them? Is that what you want? And I think one of the misguided principles inside of our Libra South Node understanding, our social conditioning that we're unraveling and kind of taking out of the collective coding one by one, is that, well, I'll use a scene in a TV show to illustrate it, as far as like, in Dexter, there's an episode where him and Rita are married and they go to couples counseling because he's hiding things, and the couples counselor asked Rita if, like, you already knew that Dexter was like this before you married him, right? And she says, yes, but I hoped he would change. And obviously it's a fictional show, obviously, but how many times have you heard the story, or you've personally lived the story of like, well, like I'll train him, like I'll get him to change, or like, you know, hopefully he'll change once we're married, or like once the baby comes, then he'll change. And like, how many times do we think that we get into a relationship to change the other person? And yes, that is happening somewhat, but not at all in the way that we think. In so much more profound than the change that we make on the other person is the change that they make to us. And so that's where, like, choosing who you want to be in a relationship with, it should be like the highest of the highest respect that you have for this person. And that's why. Like, they are one of the most respectable individuals that you've ever met, meaning you just and I don't mean like the like societal definition of like respectable. I am not implying a single thing. Like, who you respect is a very personal feeling, right? Like, we all respect different things. It's like just as personal as who we love. So saying like they are the most respectable person to you. Like for example, one time Dolly told me, she's like, can I just tell you how much I respect that you let your leg hair grow out? Like, the fact that you don't shave your legs and that you wear shorts in public, can I just tell you how much I respect the authenticity of the fact that you don't shave your legs? The most respectable person, like, there is no cookie cutter version of like who that's gonna be. So it gets to be whoever you respect, whoever you want to become more like them. That's the reason, I think, to get into relationship, to explore this realm of divine union, is that it is a transformational chamber that we can enter into to become and have unlocked even more of our divine self. And we do that by falling in love. We do that by falling into respect for another person. Like, we do that by finding something in someone that, like, we didn't even know that we had so much respect for something like that until we see them doing it. And so leaning into the people who demonstrate the things that feel like that's what I want to be, that's what I want the world to be, that's like, you know, you kind of hold them, like, without putting anybody on a pedestal, you do hold them in this divine light of like, they are beautiful, the way they are, and it may not be the way I am. If anything, I wish that in being with them that I could become more like them. Like, almost holding your partner as this like aspirational teacher, I think is one of the most authentic ways to enter into a relationship, simply because the effect, after living so many of them, the net effect of a relationship is that you're going to become more like the person you're with. So walking into it knowing this is my teacher, that seems like maybe a recipe for success. I don't know. But like how we set that down into context then of the Aries North Node is like you finding who you want to be in divine union with is a reflection of the divinity within you. So the Aries North Node coaxing you into clarifying your identity and stepping into your full power of authenticity of like who you truly are in this world. That, again, in my opinion, is the most clear route to divine union that exists. And if you want to partner, like if that's something that you want in your life, you want to partner with someone where you can build this harmonious connection. Remember, we can only have harmony when both pieces are in harmony with what's happening. So finding someone you respect, finding someone you want to be more like, someone who you enjoy their influence on your life and you enjoy the way that that influence subtly coaxes you to change and grow in your own life. That sounds like someone that you should be in relationship with and that you should spend more time with. And whether that's a mentor, a true teacher, a coach, a business partner, a husband, a life partner, a best friend. Like anybody that you are going to build a prominent relationship with in your life, it's like this season of Aries North Node and growing more into ourselves and our own identity. For you Libra North Nodes, you could easily use that as like, you can know about your divine union simply by knowing yourself. Your divine union will be where you fit in your wholeness. So getting more whole, Aries North Node, I mean, even though it kind of counteracts, like contradicts is probably a better word, like contradicts like what your Libra or your Aries South Node is saying, as far as like take the focus off of you and put it onto other people. This particular chapter actually is about putting the focus back onto you, but it can still be for the benefit of finding that harmonious relationship, that highest of the high divine union that you absolutely deserve. If there's any question about that floating in your mind, you definitely deserve it, because we all do. So you can let yourself have it if that's, you know, something that you're able to do. But like that divine union that you absolutely deserve, you can know it, you can find it, you can recognize it by uncovering as much divinity inside of your own self as possible in this Aries North Node chapter, where you do connect more into the spark of life that brought you forward. It's that same spark of life that's going to lead you on your path to the divine union that you're after. So getting to know yourself is not wasted time at all in terms of how we truly manifest like the most harmonious relationship that's meant for us. Thank you so much for hanging out with me for this Libra North Node contemplation. If you've liked it, take a second and give the video a thumbs up. I would love to hear your comments down below. Subscribe to the channel if you're into North Node content, authenticity content. That's what we do here. There are also other Libra North Node messages already on the channel. So there are playlists in the description where you can see for each of the different nodal groups all of the messages that already exist, and check back there as new ones are always becoming available. Libra North Nodes, thank you so much for hanging out with me. It has absolutely been my pleasure. Until next time, take good care, and so will I. Hello, Scorpio North Nodes. Oh, it is my pleasure to be with you once again. Do remember that there is a Scorpio North Node playlist down in the description box with the other messages. I haven't ever said that for any of the other ones, so there must be a message in the other messages that maybe you're meant to hear at this time. So just something that's coming through. I also really am curious, and I wanted to ask, so last cycle, when we had the Taurus North Node cycle, that was your cross nodal return as a Scorpio North Node, to have the Scorpio South Node coming across, and then on the flip end, the Taurus South Node that you guys have, having the Taurus North Node come across it. That was the cross nodal return for all Scorpio North Nodes. And I want to ask how it was and how it's been now that, you know, we're about a month and a half, we're about 6 weeks into the Aries North Node chapter. So your cross nodal return, it became exact at the moment when like the nodes were exactly on your nodes. So it could have been any time over the 18-month period that that chapter was playing out. But we are now 6 weeks into the next chapter. So we've officially broken the lesson plan has kind of concluded itself, if you will, of your cross nodal return. And I'm just so curious, like what it was like for you, and what it's been like to switch into the Aries North Node, because your Scorpio North Node is ruled by Mars. Scorpio is ruled by Mars, the ancient ruler. It's also ruled by Pluto as the modern ruler. But Scorpio is ruled by Mars, and the North Node just 6 weeks ago went into a Mars ruled sign as well, going into Aries. And so right now the North Node is really adding, like that Aries North Node transit is really adding a lot of fuel, a lot of like gasoline on the fire of what got stirred up during your nodal return. Like you guys have such a cool placement to where, I don't know, something happened during that cross nodal return, and then you get like this as the follow-up chapter. The follow-up act is the Aries North Node, which is all about like really stepping into your authenticity and fuel and courage to really look at the social programming that exists in your world, and taking that Scorpio South Node transit that we had, where we were like unpacking the way we allocate power in our lives, and like how often are we allocating power to the other versus allocating power to ourselves. All of it being our power, but sometimes we give it to them and sometimes we keep it for ourselves. It's interesting. Food for thought. And now with the Libra South Node, kind of as the follow-up, it is taking it, like I've said recently, like I thought the Scorpio South Node was deep. The Libra South Node is an incredible chaser to the depth that the Scorpio South Node opened up. And the Libra South Node now is continuing to illuminate how it is that we choose to interact with people, and how our boundaries work, and how it is that those boundaries become activated and defensible, like that they're actually working. Like, how does all of this work is such a focus of the Taurus North Node and now the Aries North Node. So like, just so curious how it's been going for you guys. I would love to hear from you down below. And then I also wanted to introduce a couple of the concepts from Jan Spiller's book, Astrology for the Soul. I'm looking at the attributes to develop in North Node and Scorpio chapter. And one of them that is really jumping out at me here is releasing whatever causes stagnation and low energy. Releasing whatever causes stagnation and low energy. And then, right as a follow-up to that, eliminating non-useful possessions. Enjoying things without having to own them. Accepting support from others, ideas, money, opportunities, energy. And like, kind of as a how do you do that then? Enjoying high-risk situations that make one feel alive. Taurus South Node is extremely risk-averse. That's like one of the pieces that like just kind of probably loops over and over and over and over and over and over and over, is like this over-exaggeration of security. This over-exaggeration of the value of material possessions, thinking that they are much more important than they are, thinking that if I get enough in the physical, then I'll feel secure. And it's kind of a bucket with a giant hole in it, where like there's just not enough. There's not enough physical proof of your security to make one feel secure on the inside. It's like the classic Earth South Node, Water North Node. Like, I very much resonate with this as a Virgo South Node, as far as like, there's not enough details. There's not enough backup plans to make you feel safe. Like, it just, yeah. Well, and same for Capricorn South Node. Like, there's not enough respect from other people. There's not enough regard from other people. There's not enough legacy. Like, look at how much I've built. Look at how much I've contributed. And like, you can still feel empty as fuck on the inside. So same, Taurus South Node, like you can have everything. Like on paper, you can have the husband, the house, the kids, the money, the retirement fund, the vacation home, the like on and on and on and on and on. And you can still feel hollow and like this sucking necubus. I don't even think that's a word, like, but that's what it feels like. It's like sucking necubus inside your soul, of like a bottomless pit that like no matter how much physical security you have, it's not translating into emotional security. And so a Scorpio North Node at some point, getting rid of the non-useful possessions, like it is that focus shifting from my security and my well-being isn't actually coming from all of these things. And that's also where you get enjoying things without having to own them. Like in that Taurus South Node, kind of over-exaggeration of physical possessions bringing one security. Of course you have to own them. The more physical stuff you have, like the more secure you have, like you're building it into like this fortress of security, like with your physical stuff and like your money and all of that. And again, it's not translating. It's like you can have all of that and still feel on the inside like, this is sucking my soul. You know, like security doesn't work the way we thought it did. Like when you're in this Scorpio North Node contemplation, it is a question about how does security actually come about? And that begs the question, like, what kind of security? Because again, you can have financial security and it not translate to emotional security. And what are you really after? As a Scorpio North Node, or an 8th house North Node for that matter, or Pluto in Scorpio is what I have that really lets me get into this space, is like, what even is true security? What is true power? What does it really mean? And I do think that the physical world can teach us some things. Like it's part of it, right? Like it's everything is part of it. So like, it's not that that's not real or true or anything like that. It's just incomplete. So like the physical world can show us some elements of how secure we feel on the inside, but at the same time, like our emotional security, it's deeper than that. It's bigger than that. And that's where we do have to get into our emotions and into our intuition and into the stored energy that we have in our bodies, and really looking through, how do we define these things and what does it mean? And so once we get kind of down the road in that contemplation of like, where I've come to, for me personally, is that true power comes from being connected to your soul. True power comes from being connected to your instincts in the moment. It's not about having all the resources. It's about having the right resources at the right time. And for that, you may only ever need one resource and the right time. And you have everything that you ever need. And so the pack rat Taurus South Node, like, no, I got to keep all the stuff because like I might need that someday. I might need that someday. It's like this hoarding type energy of that Taurus South Node, like letting that go, because that's not where the security comes from. And if anything, cluttering up our physical space with all of that keeps us out of where our security, where our power truly comes from. And as a water North Node, as a water house North Node, that is in your soul. And the physical falls short in terms of showing you your true security. There's part of our security that we just know, that there is no proof. There's other than the way we feel. And as an Earth South Node, I understand like how mystical that feels, but anybody who's like, again, a little ways down the road on this contemplation, like, and you've found that power inside of yourself, you've found that security inside your connection with your spirit, like you understand what I'm talking about. Some other ones on here that, so some other ones on here that I think are really interesting, given the Aries North Node chapter that we're living on, is awareness of others' psychology, their desires, their wants, their needs and motives, and openness to partnering, supporting, and merging power with others. And that's to say that, like, again, going back to accepting support from others, like there's something about Earth South nodes that are really good at giving support and really shitty at receiving support. So that goes for all of us, the Taurus, Virgo, Capricorn, South nodes. That's a classic trait of when you have an Earth South node. Basically what that's saying is that in past lifetimes, you weren't really allowed to access your emotions because there were so many people counting on you not accessing your emotions. Like your emotional compartmentalization was serving the survival of not just you, but lots of people in that process. Like you were the provider, you were the supporter, the one who put food on the table and a roof over the head, like of a lot of different people. Like that, even in that, you know, like Taurus South Node sense of like growing food and working the land and like providing for so many people with what it is that you're doing. Like if the farmer doesn't grow the food, we don't eat. And especially in these days where like, yeah, like there are some people who work 7 days a week, 24/7, because if they don't, then we don't have a food supply. So like that's still a real thing for the very few people left working in agriculture, but that used to be a lot more of us. And so these Earth South nodes, it's like we're almost like traumatically disconnected from our own emotions. Like just a little too ready and willing and able to set aside how we feel about it as like, oh, that's just nonsense. Like it's not proof, it's not concrete. Like we don't want to waste our time on such things. Like we have work to do. That's classic Earth South Node. And so what I want to say in this whole like Aries North Node transit that we are all living under is that like as you become aware of this Aries North Node, like who you really are, stepping more into your identity, what that may mean as a Water North Node is that part of what you have to accept is that you are an emotional being. I am an emotional being. Like I would be so curious, like at what level do you accept that, or do you completely reject it, or have you totally internalized it and you're in love with your emotional instincts, you're like trusting your intuition? I would be so curious, where are you at in that process? But like as the Aries North Node is working with each of us to self-actualize into who we truly are, there is something about you that like you are meant to merge into sharing your energy with lots of people in a meaningful way, where you are here to be supported because you have such wisdom to share. So like you share your wisdom and other people want to give you money or give you food, or they want to provide you with shelter. They want to provide you with other opportunities. Like they want to give you stuff because they value so highly the wisdom that you're sharing with them. And so again, part of this Aries North Node, part of stepping into your power is, do you believe that your wisdom is valuable? Like how valuable is your support? How much is it worth? And they even recommend, like Jan Spiller recommends in this book, that as a Scorpio North Node or an 8th house North Node, that you allow the other person to value you, because most classically the Taurus South Node does not value themselves adequately, like, or appropriately, that there's so much underplaying and unrealization of like the true value of what you bring, like the psychological impact that you're able to make on people simply through being a calm, grounded presence in the room. Like there's almost nothing that you have to say to listen and listen and listen. And when it's your turn to respond, like be in your body and calm and be with them, be breathing with their human. And just by doing that, the somatic effect that you people have on a really chaotic energy field, like I've felt it firsthand, like from multiple Scorpio North Nodes, like it is amazing how calming your presence is. So when you value your impact, you don't really see, you're not really giving a lot of credit to the effect that your energy has on other people, the effect that your wisdom has on other people. Instead, you look to the other person to tell you, like, how helpful is it? How valuable is it for me to do what I'm doing? And you just pay me accordingly to whatever you think is the right amount. And that most often you will get more than if you had set your own price and asked them to pay or whatever. So that's just a tidbit. And that's just like are you able to receive? Are you able to let someone blow your mind with how much they want to give you, because that's what they feel is reciprocal to what you have given them just by being? That your beingness is worth this tidal wave of abundance coming back to you. And you're like, but I didn't work for it, but I didn't earn it. No, but your beingness is valuable just by you existing. The psychological impact that you have on others is one of the most valuable resources that you have. And so one thing that I want to say is, do not give that to just anybody, right? That's probably a lesson that you've learned. It's like, you don't have to be a safe harbor and a psychological sounding board for just anybody. There are probably people out there who will take advantage of that and who will see like, oh, wow, like, you know, and like hone right in on that. Like part of the Scorpio North Node process, and that is so supported by this Aries North Node transit, is that you deserve to have someone who is like I described, who wants to pour, just shower abundance on you because of how much abundance you're bringing to them psychologically. That like how much calming effect you have on them, and how much that calm then allows them to see straight such that they can even navigate and be effective in their life. And then they go forth and be effective, and they're able to accomplish more than they would have been if they had still been in like, you know, clouded clarity and like disillusion, like in, you know, fogginess and illusion. Like that clarity that you give to people is worth a lot. And if you're not being appreciated, that Libra South Node is kind of helping us to clear away the people who aren't a good fit with us, right? Like that Aries North Node chapter can continue to encourage you to develop your sense of self such that you're really only choosing to be in relationship, choosing to partner, choosing to support, choosing to merge with other people who value you and who you value in return. And that's a personal choice. That's a reflection of our sense of self. If we're merging with people who disrespect us, I saw a quote the other day that's like, instead of continuing to ask, like, why do they keep doing this to me? Ask yourself, why are you still allowing it? You know, that's very much like this Aries North Node transit advice for the Scorpio North Node is like, no one does anything to us that we're not allowing. So stand firmly in the power of your personal sense of self, and know that you giving yourself to anyone is a tremendous gift. And the more you know that, the more you stand firm in your own self-respect, your own self-valuation, the more you will attract potential partners to merge with who are valuing you in the way that I described. Scorpio North Nodes, it has been my pleasure to get to hang out with you. If you've liked this video, please give it a thumbs up. Comment down below. I would love to hear your reflections. How's it going for you? Check out the Scorpio North Node playlist. Like, it came forward so clearly at the beginning that there may be something on there for you. Until next time, I do hope that you are enjoying this Aries North Node transit and stepping more fully into your power, and then watching the leverage of being in your power such that now you have access and option to merge with another powerful one, and watch like the alchemical profundity of what's possible when you merge power with another, and how much like the exponential effect of what's possible when like 1 + 1 = 7. You know, like leverage, the concept of leverage. It's not about what you personally could do with your own two hands. It's about what is possible when you use the deep wisdom and value that you have access to merge with this powerful one, and now they're even more effective, and merge with this powerful one, and now they're even more effective. And you just keep doing that. You invest your very valuable energy in the ones that you see radical potential in, and then watch what happens, right? Like your life, your relationships, like the garden of your relationships, and tending to the garden of your relationships by investing your tender, loving care into the people you have specifically identified as like, you are valuable. I shall invest in you. I shall grow your tree. I shall, because one day, right, 30, 40 years from now, I shall sit under the shade of your tree, and I shall eat the fruit that you drop onto me, right, effortlessly, because I'm investing my energy. And you do that, you invest your energy in the right people. You'll know that when you feel them, because they'll value you in return. It's a reciprocal exchange. You invest in those people, and then you receive. All of us water North Nodes, that's what we're here to do. When you're building up your water energy in any capacity, reception. You are here to be a radical receiver of material goods. Your physical survival is to be supported and provided by other people. That's what it means to have a water North Node. It's like you're here to be cared for. You're here to be held and supported by whatever support system will form around you the more you step into your authentic self. And that's where, you know, this fire North Node, this Aries North Node, this Mars-ruled North Node is so powerful for any of the water signs, because what it's activating is your radical receiver phase, an era of radical reception. I would love to hear how it's going for you down below, Scorpio North Nodes. Until next time, take such good care of your very valuable self, and so will I. Hello, Sagittarius North Nodes, and welcome to this contemplation where we are going to set down into the Aries North Node context, you developing into Sagittarius energy by working with and healing the Gemini shadow. So anybody who's wanting to take that journey, you're more than welcome here. The attributes to develop for Sagittarius, like if you're a Sagittarius North Node, Sagittarius rising, Sagittarius midheaven, Sagittarius Pluto, I would say any of these could benefit from working through these attributes to develop. And, you know, when I say working through, I mean becoming conscious that that's even something you could try, and then trying it and see how it feels. It's never about cramming something down your throat, ever, 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 especially for you as a fire North Node, as a Sagittarius North Node. You are wanting to rely on yourself, on your own intuition. So that's actually number one, is reliance on intuition is the number one attribute to develop. So do not let any of this go down as a recipe card. Do not, and I'm like, practicing my own Sagittarius energy. Like, don't let anybody else tell you what's right for you, because you will know it when you feel it. Right? If something, there's a book by Martha Beck called The Way of Integrity, and she explains the inner teacher, and basically anything that relaxes you, she says that's how truth feels. And anything that brings constriction into your body, anything that makes you not like yourself or be mean to yourself, then that is not truth. Anything that feels like that, that is not truth. That's not what truth feels like. Truth feels like relaxation. Truth feels like melting and an exhale of relief. A sigh of relief is what truth feels like. And relying on your intuition to tell you when you are listening to truth and when you're listening to nonsense. So, you know, this reading is no exception. As I try to get the cat hair off my nose, which is a game we play all the time here at the Ponderosa. Anyways, attributes to develop: reliance on intuition, prophetic abilities, and invisible guidance. The prophetic abilities I really want to highlight here, because that Gemini South Node is deeply perceptive. Deeply perceptive, like down in your unconscious mind, where they say we use like a couple percent of our brain consciously, and like 90-some% is we're using it unconsciously. Down in the unconscious part of your brain, when you listen, when you are in an environment, you soak up information like a sponge. The details, all of the trillions of details are moving into your subconscious so naturally and effortlessly that you have a lot of information at your disposal. And then these moments of clarity where you know the answer, you can see the answer, it like all comes together into a spontaneous knowing of what's true. And we know it's true because of the way it feels for us. And it's like, how did I do that? I don't even know how I did that. But like, you are so adept at reading the situation that you are a part of, that Air South Node superpower, that deep perceptiveness. On the flip side, you know, like the Gemini South Node, when are we taking it too far? It's like, as a Sagittarius North Node, you are not here simply to perceive. That's not the end, right? Like, so staying in the perception mode and just soaking up, and like just letting that be all you ever do. Like that would be Gemini South Node, like kind of shadow side, is that you just listen, and you never really say what's true for you. That Sagittarius North Node is really like stepping into your fire, stepping into who you are personally, right? Like you can absolutely harness that perceptiveness that you do possess as a Gemini South Node, and then let what you're perceiving guide what you're saying. And don't back away from what's true for you, right? So like that is the kind of the overarching guidance of any fire North Node, is to step into your fire. You are here to explore your own ego. You're here to have an opinion. You're here to have a preference about things and to act accordingly. So there's like a BS meter that Gemini South Node possesses, and the Sagittarius North Node is like, yeah, so act on it. Act on when you smell bullshit, when you feel bullshit, when you want to call bullshit. Like, you don't necessarily have to, but definitely don't go to the opposite extreme and trust the person, you know? So like your radar for people is really good, and your radar for what's going on in the situation and what the truth of the situation is. Air South Nodes have a special ability to pay attention. And so when you go into a situation, you're like, why can't anybody else see that this is what we need to do? It's like, no, that's your superpower, is that you can see. So be sure to speak up. Be sure to raise your hand and be like, hey, why should we do it this way? Could we do it this way? Could we try it this way? I was thinking, what about this? And then it might look like this, and that's because this piece, what do you think about that? And like, chip in with your perspective. Use your voice and put yourself in the mix, put yourself out there to stand up for what you believe to be true. Because as that Air South Node, you have a unique collection of information and details and patterns and things that you have witnessed that is guiding, like that rising to the surface, that one bubble popping at the surface of like, this is what's true. There is an entire iceberg of information that Gemini South Node has soaked up that is telling you this is the answer. It's prophetic. There may not be like a whole list of evidence or reasons, or here's the math that got to that answer. But if you really spend enough time like in your subconscious, like digging down into like the deeper parts of yourself, you would find that what you're saying makes sense. And you would be able to find the different information. If you had the patience to like go through it and like find it, you would. But you can also just rely on your intuition. You can just trust that when that bubble pops at the surface and you feel yourself relax, that's truth. And you don't need to dig. You don't need to justify. You don't need to explain yourself. You don't need to be like, here's the 13-page report on why I think we should do what we're doing. Really, like if you let your passion, your conviction, like the way that you believe that this is what's true, right? And that belief, the strength of the belief that you have in your intuition, in my experience of developing my own, I have found that it comes through trusting your intuition and having it work out well. And then the next time the little bubble of truth pops at your surface, and you're like, oh, that's what's true. That's what my intuition is telling me I should do. And then you think about that last time where I did it and it worked out. And then you're like a little bit more enthusiastic this time about, yeah, I'm going to do that. I'm going to do what my intuition says. I'm going to just go with it. And then it works out. And now you've got a track record of 2 times. And now the next bubble of truth happens. And by the time you've got like 100 of those, like you trust your intuition. So as a Sagittarius North Node though, you're probably starting with a track record of 0, like from when you were born. Like you aren't necessarily an intuitive being by nature, you're an observant being by nature. And you've done the observation. You are a master at observation. And now in this lifetime, you're here to define your personal philosophy on life. And then talk about it and let it guide how you interact with the people that you're with, and how you sense out your own truth from their truth, and kind of like all of this process of really stepping into that fire energy of figuring out who you are. Who are you specifically? And that is so much what the Aries North Node is wanting from every single person. So to have a fire North Node, whether it's Sagittarius or Leo, like this is a very invigorating, supportive, helpful chapter, this Aries North Node, of these trines off of the Aries North Node to all the Leo North Nodes, to all the Sag North Nodes. That trine energy is very harmonious, very supportive, not necessarily disruptive, but expansive, right? Like more good stuff coming online potentially for Sagittarius North Nodes. So it'll be at its peak, at its exact, when the Aries North Node is at the same degree as your North Node. Like let's say you have a 19 degrees Sagittarius North Node. When the Aries North Node gets to 19 degrees, that is when that trine is exact. That geometry, that shape is exact in the sky. And the channel of energy is as wide as it will ever be during these 18 months of the Aries North Node transit. The whole entire time though, the whole entire time, like all the way, now that we're in it, all the way until we get out of it in January of 2025, that Aries North Node energy is sending supportive, opening, like, come on, you can do it. Trust your intuition, trust your fire, trust your knowing of yourself. Like you can do it. Like this support is here for you this entire Aries North Node transit. So that is so exciting. Sagittarius energy, Leo energy, both stand to grow a lot over that 18-month period. The next attribute to develop goes along so well with everything we've said so far, speaking from higher consciousness. And what does that mean? Like, I think another word from that is channeling, or another word for that is channeling, speaking from higher consciousness. It's like, say what you know without needing to know why you know that. And that is the amalgamation of what I'm talking about with like that Gemini South Node has observed a metric shit ton of details and patterns and data. And now it's like AI, essentially. Like you think about what AI is, it takes bits and pieces of everything that it's soaked up and it creates something new. And that's what speaking from higher consciousness, that's what channeling essentially is like drawing on the full power of your unconscious mind. Say what is true without needing to understand how you know that to be true. And let your own conviction, your own strength of knowing and the truth of it, let that be the guide, not necessarily the evidence or the details. Leave those in your subconscious mind. They've done their job. They gave you the answer, but then it's your job to believe in it. Another one is direct communication free from censorship. And how perfect does that go along with the Libra South Node and everything it's doing to like claw apart our people-pleasing tendencies, right? That's what the Libra South Node is like with its little ice pick, like chipping away at our people pleaser. And no shade, no shame at all. Like we all get into this. Like there's always little exceptions. Even if you're not a people pleaser by trade, there's usually a person or two where I just can't say no to them. Like I just pretty much go along with like what, well, they're old or they're my mom or like whatever. Like you have justifications for why you're a people pleaser towards them. But in general, letting yourself get off the wheel, the hamster wheel of trying to be liked. Stop doing that. Like that's what the Libra South Node is encouraging us to do. Like stop coming at life from a place of I need to stay likable / acceptable so that these people will like and accept me and not kick me out of the tribe. Like that's very much a fear-based approach. And this Aries North Node is like, you have your own back. You can support yourself. You have an inner being that is your resource, that can be a source of power for you. You do not need to people please. You don't need to censor yourself to stay likable and acceptable by other people, no matter what. You don't need to do that. And you can do that as much as you want. Everyone can do whatever they want, but you don't need to do that. And that's really what this Aries North Node is kind of, it's the option that's on the buffet. It's like, you don't need to do that. And then it's like, but I do. And it's like, well, these next, however long until we're out of this chapter could be an exploration of, well, do I need to do it or do I want to do it? Like what is my reasoning? Because as we are able to make our anchor point ourself, life gets a whole lot easier. Like life gets a whole lot more clear and there's a lot less noise. And all of that is very soothing to the Sagittarius North Node. Like, one of the recommendations is that you spend time alone or in nature, kind of in that solitude space where the noise can quiet down and you can see what is true for you and what is not true for you. One of the places that I really explore this, other than on my channel, is I explore my truth and my authenticity in these like spoken explorations. I journal a lot. And actually, like, I'll see if I can just take a picture and put it on the screen here, where I have journaled thousands, like probably tens of thousands of pages in the last 7 years. And every day I explore within myself what is true for me, what have I soaked up that is rubbing me the wrong way, aka it is not true for me personally, but I likely soaked it up so that I could get clear on what is true for me personally. And so I explore all of that in my journal, thousands of pages a year. And that's one recommendation. You can do it in your head if that's possible for you. But for me, I tend to feel when I'm in that Gemini shadow, if like I feel overloaded, I feel full, I feel like my head is a tightly wound ball of yarn, like a knotted up, like about to explode. So much is in there. And if you ever feel like that, journaling is the medicine. One thought at a time, one thought as far as like, what is in there? What is it? What's in there? It might be like this memory from 2 days ago. It might be this anxiety from like for a week from now. It might be this hope for this thing that I'm working on to do this outcome. Like it might be tons of things that are in there. And it's like, those are little pieces of your truth. And so as I journal, as I write them down, it feels like planting the seed of what's true for me down on the page. And my journal is like a garden of truth. And so that is how I personally have come to work with it. Again, I'm sure there are just as many methods as there are people. But that's what I do, is I share what works for me and you guys do whatever works for you. So working with your truth is definitely helpful for giving yourself permission then to have direct communication where you say what's true for you, free from censorship, because you're not worried that your life will be over if the other person takes it badly or doesn't understand or whatever, and now they don't want to interface with you anymore. Like, that's where the next one of trusting oneself, like that's the shift that is ultimately at play here, is like kind of coming off this Scorpio South Node piece of like, are you allocating power to others or are you allocating power to yourself? Now we're in the Libra South Node of like, am I expressing myself based on what they want to see from me, or am I expressing myself based on what I want to express? That's the Aries North Node, Libra South Node question. And as the Aries North Node like is a magnet towards expansion and growth and development and like evolving our soul in that North Node space of the unknown, the unconscious, like bringing it into consciousness so that it can bloom and blossom. This chapter will magnetize us further into ourselves, thus letting go of the restrictions that we're placing on ourselves around what is it that you're allowed to say and what aren't you allowed to say. What is the acceptable, appropriate way to say this? Like, what's politically correct? Like, we're letting go of a lot of that and we're being more honest. We're being more forthright. And in that, I want to give some shout out to this concept that I learned about people pleasing recently, where like when you people please, when you like protect the person from what you think they can't handle, like it is such like an unconscious message of, I know you're fragile and weak and you're not strong enough to handle this, so here, let me withhold it, let me wear the burden of this because you know you're not strong enough to. Not like me. Like, it's such a narcissistic viewpoint, like when you really get down into it. And so it's like when you let go of your people pleaser, when you let go of the censorship that you're placing on yourself, what you're saying is like, I trust you can handle this. I trust you can hear my truth and that you can figure out for yourself if it has anything to do with your truth. Okay? Like, My truth is not your truth is not my truth. Like, we have this mutual respect that says, I am my own individual, you are your own individual. Therefore, I can have whatever opinion I friggin' want. I can say whatever I want, and if you don't like it, then we can have a conversation about it, or you can go away, or whatever you feel like we need to do. But I'm allowed to have my own version of the truth. That's the whole point of getting to have an identity. That's the whole point of getting to have an individual body. That's part of what we wanted to manifest by coming here in the first place. Sagittarius North Nodes. You guys, this has been my pleasure. So thank you so much for hanging out with me. Thank you for listening. Thank you for contemplating this right along with me. I want to extend a special invitation for any of you who are feeling the call to come and co-create a conversation with me about your particular North Node, whether that's Sagittarius or something else. If you are interested at all in having a conversation about your nodal axis, sharing examples of, here's how I see my North Node kind of peeking its head up, here's how my South Node still gets a hold of me sometimes, sharing stories like that and having that conversation so that we can put that on the channel so that other people could possibly look at that and gain a better understanding of their own truth, of maybe getting a chance to hear some nuggets or some pieces of wisdom from higher consciousness that help them to relax, that they have a personal, advancement in their relationship to their truth by listening to how you found yours. It's a beautiful gift to think about giving to the collective. And if it's something that sounds like, oh yeah, I could do that, I want to do that, that sounds fun, email me, owningauthenticity@gmail.com. Until next time, you take such good care of your beautiful self, and so will I.